Today, I'm interviewing Ben Braden, who is going to tell us a little bit about himself.
I'm the North District 9280 Esquire to the District Deputy. So it's not a Grand Esquire, but to the District Deputy.
To the District Deputy.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, anyway, Ben, I've known Ben now for a little over a year or two. Love him to death. He's a great man. And I think more than anything else, he, just by his actions and what I've seen at the Ballard Elks Lodge, which is he is a member, is what has propelled us here in Fremont and a lot of other lodges in the area, which is why I really wanted to do the interview with him today. So, Ben, first question, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why'd you become a member originally?
Originally, why I became a member is my grandfather. Some of my earliest memories were going to the Tacoma Lodge with him, 5, 6 years old for dinner. And it's just something we did together. And he passed away when I was about 7, so I kind of left quickly. But getting back into it was definitely a connection to grandfather that I barely knew, so I guess they call that a legacy member, but that's basically what I was after, and then boy, did it go from there.
So I guess he was your inspiration, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Great guy. Really kind of pushed me as a kid and made me feel proud to be with him at the Elks. Like sitting there wearing your little sport coat as a 6-year-old, and having someone sharing you and being impressed about you and seeing that whole experience was definitely something that stuck with me.
Now, was your granddad just a member?
No, he was a member. That lodge, I think at the time, was probably about 8,000 members. They had been up 10 or 12,000. So,
oh wow,
many opportunities for members to become officers or committee chairs. So no, he was a member.
So they had 8,000 members at the time, or somewhere in around there.
Yeah.
That's a lot comparatively to these days, right?
They're now 950. So
they went from 8 to 10,000 down to 950.
Yeah, they sold their building to Walmart and moved over to their golf course and built a new smaller facility for their current membership.
Right. And this was in Tacoma, you said?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, great legacy. I mean, let's face it, great legacy with your granddad kind of introducing you into the Elks. But what inspired or convinced you that maybe you might like to become an officer?
Well, it was a long process over a few years. Basically, I recognized our lodge was growing. When I joined, I was one of 39 new members, and that was at the time the largest group that the lodge had joining. And so the place is growing, it's got energy, and we had, a Facebook person for the lodge, not even a page or a group or anything. And our website was ugly, and the newsletter, had clip art in it instead of pictures and articles. It was that stuff was behind the times. It's stuff that I have time to do because I'm in sales, and between sales I can build the website or focus energy on a Facebook page. And so I basically bugged the heck out of the person that was running those things until they gave me the passwords, and I started doing it. Got a newsletter going. It built up to 20 pages with great articles and pictures and stuff. So it's I started things that built, and then continued going to the meetings. Got my diamond pin, which is something a lot of lodges do. If you go to the 3 meetings.
Now, wait a minute. Here at my lodge, I don't think we have a diamond pin. What is a diamond pin?
Well, your secretary can get them from Grand Lodge. They're all of $4, I think, each. And what we use them for is if you join the lodge and you go to the next 3 meetings consecutive, you earn a diamond pin. So it's a motivation, and it's of course not a big diamond. It's a little elk thing with small gems around it. But it's a select group. There's not many people that have this pin, so it's kind of nice to see them at meetings and look around and go.
So let's say I'm a brand new member, just joined last month, and I know that the next Elks meeting is this month. If I go to that one and two more after that, but they have to be consecutive, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
There's, if you got a good excuse, I'm sure an exalted ruler would let it pass. And next thing I know, one day I'm sitting at the bar, and up comes Lois, and Lois is our secretary, and she's had her 93rd birthday 5 times since I joined. She's a little old lady. She
Gotcha.
picked by my ear and was, this is January, and is like, you're going to be an officer. And which is another touching thing, because it's something as a kid, and I don't know how these little old ladies can do this, but my grandma used to do that to me. When
my Italian grandmother used to do the exact same thing to me, my friend.
How
Absolutely.
They do that? I mean, they can pick you up. You're 100. But yeah, she did that, and she's our matriarch at the lodge. She's a connection to an older generation and the past of the Elks and the events we used to have, where the big balls and stuff that would go on. So when she says she wants you to do something, you do it.
Well, I am a firm believer in bringing a lot of that back. I love the banquet hall, the big food, the big parties, the dance. As a matter of fact, we had a wonderful country and Western band come in well before we were locked down, of course. And we did a big banquet and a big dance. So I think that's fantastic, bringing a lot of that older stuff back in.
Oh yeah, no, we recently, while we were open, put on a dinner downstairs where and a couple of us past exalted rulers got our white tuxes on, and we fancied up all the tables downstairs by the water and put on a formal dinner for everyone. And it
white tuxes, like a little Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, man, we're
doing a little John Travolta there. I love that.
Yes, it's fun to be elegant, and we'll do more of that. It's definitely something that the Elks, kind of being involved with it, being an officer, being an active member, kind of makes you up your wardrobe a little. And I find myself, buying a suit, which prior to getting involved with the Elks, I had 1 or 2 suits, and now I'm looking at them going, wow, I should really, let's really get a new suit.
Well, while you were an officer, and I know you are a PER now at your lodge in Ballard, and now you've moved up to the district Esquire. But I guess the question is that, do you remember, or did you create something at the lodge when you were going through the chairs, whether it was loyal or lecturing year or leading year, that you're very proud of? Maybe something that you did that's a little different, that the status quo wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I mean, a whole bunch of different things. I mean, we're in a growing active lodge, so it gives you an opportunity by being an officer to, empower the members to do what they want to do. We did a lot of different crazy things. There's some videos that Grand Lodge has on those. But the things I'm really proud of is being able to set the lodge up for the future, because my whole focus was to make sure the future officers have an easier time and the place stays open for the members. So, we set up a balloon payment schedule to pay off our mortgage in 2 years, instead of floating it off and always struggling to pay that mortgage. The being in an officer position and able to appoint people to committees is a huge benefit, I think, for there, because you can take the time to recognize what someone's good at, what they're passionate at, and just place them in there. And you go back later, and that's kind of my proudest moments. Is now I was exalted ruler 2017-18, and I go back now and see, the grant writer is still doing it, and has developed from that first year getting $2 grand for a lodge to this year getting every single grant, which not only makes our lodge look good, makes our members feel good, but does great things for the community too.
And hey, listen, the money helps the charities. Absolutely. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, absolutely. And so then, of course, that just rounds me right into the next question. That time that you were, looking at the chairs and going up and, creating a little bit of havoc and Braden chaos in your Elks Lodge. How was it? Make any friends? I mean, how many people are you still connected with from that time? Well, in a couple of days.
Yeah.
How are you? Are you still friends? Do you still have that camaraderie of being in the chairs?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually the coolest thing about being an officer is the people you meet that you never otherwise would have met. I'm involved in a few yacht clubs around the area and some disabled help groups where we go help people ski and stuff, and those are great. I love them, but the demographic of the people you're hanging around is pretty similar to what you are. And the Elks brings just this broad spectrum that you're going to be exposed to. And when you're an officer, you're working close with male, female, black, white, Asian, whatever. And there are people that are welders, people that are lawyers, people that are doctors, garbage truck drivers, whatever. They're good people, and you get to work with them, meet them, create friendships. I've got in the past Exalted Ruler Association, 5 or 6 friends there from the lodge that we now trade tools and stuff. Do the community thing that you never would have had if you didn't get involved. I've met some older members. One who we made an honorary past Exalted Ruler, who drove a tank onto Iwo Jima.
That's awesome.
And to sit with him and his buddy who flew in the Army Air Corps in New Guinea, just makes those connections that I wouldn't have had. I mean, you had them as a member, but as an officer, you're kind of forced to walk around and introduce yourself and talk to people and get their stories. And by doing that, that's where you make the connections.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because the next question I was going to ask is that, do you visit other lodges? And I guess, do you find that camaraderie between other lodges as an officer? So that, I know you're supposed to, at least here in California, they always kind of throw us this thing. They say, well, if you're an officer of the lodge, if you go to another lodge, you're supposed to wear your badge, which I typically do. And then when you walk in the lodge, you're supposed to show your membership card, and then show that you're an officer, and then ask for if there's an officer on duty or somebody there. So do you feel welcomed more as an officer or a committee member? Or do you just feel the same as if you're just a regular member, going in to visit other lodges in your area? And I'm going to throw another one at you. Have you visited outside of your state? So I mean, does it just happen that it's fun in Washington and all Washington people know each other? But have you tried that outside of your state too?
Yeah, I'd like to think that it is the same whether you're a member or an officer, but I will definitely say once I became an officer and got involved, I made more of an effort to visit other lodges. So I don't know, but I can say, man, in visiting other lodges, we've got going to the national conventions and state conventions, meeting people, and then go seeing them at their lodges is amazing. But just as we're traveling around the country, visiting lodges, recently just drove over to Minnesota and back, and the Alexandria Lodge, and walked in and we have pins made when we're Exalted Ruler up here in Washington that, saved a few, and I bring them with me and try to trade them with people. And that kind of gets the conversation started. And next thing you know, you're getting a tour of the building and kind of being treated as much of royalty as you can at an Elks Lodge. But, you get the tour, right?
But it is true, because I went to the Monterey Bay Elks Lodge. My wife forced me on a getaway weekend to go down to Monterey a couple of years back, and I did. I believe I was lecturing night, and I just said, "Hey, listen," and I did what I was told. I wore the badge and walked in, and they literally treated me like gold. It was fantastic. They were so nice. The bartender immediately went and grabbed. I think it was the Esquire or somebody who was in the lodge at the time, and just really had a wonderful conversation. And then I just said, I'd love to have a cocktail, and they gave us the first cocktail for free, which was really nice. Sat us on the deck. We got to watch the sunset off the ocean, and then the gentleman even recommended a great seafood place to go eat. So it was a wonderful experience. It was.
Yeah, no, I mean, our lodge does the second drink. We want to make you stick around. You got to pay for the first one.
Okay.
But there's so many cool lodges that we've seen. I think I talked to you about the San Rafael Lodge, that old mansion that they're in, and there's one I went to in Bristol, Rhode Island, that was the only building ever designed by Nathaniel Harrishoff, who's our country's preeminent boat designer and builder from back in the day. And only building he built, and it's designed on steel pilings. So if there was a storm surge, the building would actually lift up on the pilings and wouldn't fall.
Only a boat builder would think of that, right?
It's rusted in place and not moving nowadays, because what a piece of history, right there, that you're
absolutely
just part of. Or down in Newport, you go down the road and they've got beautiful old house there that is haunted, right? The old owner is, there's
a haunted. There was a haunted Elks Lodge.
Dead for 100 years.
Wow.
There's all these cool things you get when you're going around.
Well, I have to be honest with you. The Fremont Elks Lodge is haunted. It is. I was there one night with just me and the bartender and a couple of last members, and we were cleaning up after an event or a party or something else like that. And we went into, I was cleaning up and I had to go into the restroom, and I went to the restroom and another person came in behind me. And so I went to the restroom, I came out, and there was nobody there. And it was just like the whistle, the person walking in, stepping up to the urinal, the whole thing, like somebody had done 1,000 times before.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out. And I literally ran out of the restroom, and I talked with the bartender, and I said, did anybody here just go into the men's restroom? And they all kind of looked at me like, no. And I was like, so I was in there by myself. And they look at me and they're like, yeah. And I was like, no, I wasn't. I wasn't in there by myself. It was a little freaky, but I have heard stories, at least at my lodge, where there are people who really don't want to leave. They really had a great time at the Elks Lodge, and guess what? Live or dead, they're still sticking around and having a good time. So,
Poem at 11, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ben, we got to talk about other lodges. We got to talk about a little bit of the officer stuff, but I want to kind of delve a little deeper into the officer stuff. What's a good benefit of being an officer? What have you seen that is kind of in your life you've learned from being an officer? And what's kind of the benefits that have kind of helped you in your day-to-day life because of it?
Well, obviously, as an officer, you're organizing and motivating volunteers, right? And they're not employees. You're not managing them as an employer, but they're volunteers. So you got to come up with some ingenuitive ways to not only motivate someone to do something, but recognize who's going to do it, who's going to be good at it, who likes to just take the garbage out and cook burgers in the back, but isn't into people, and who likes to sit at the front desk and greet everyone and make sure that they're comfortable.
Right.
So that the benefit where I'm driving at is it helps me in my job, having spent the time being an officer, because it's really taught me not only to listen better, to pay attention to people and how they're acting and what they're doing, but to actually take the time to listen and remember what's important to them and try to build on that. Being an officer gives you that opportunity, time and time again, every meeting, how to organize something, keep things on track, keep things focused on the end game.
Now, do you do that individually, or do you try and build a team around you whenever you're going to do an event or something like that?
I prefer to set people up around me to succeed and do the job and own it themselves. I like
Okay.
to find people that, here's a good idea. I need this done, but I want a bunch of people to do it. I don't want my name on it. I'll knock the barriers down for you and get you what you need. But yeah, I try to get a group together and get the project done. And I think at the Elks, that gives value to their membership. Like if you can get people doing things and it comes to its end game, they've got value in their membership. They're going to pay their dues next year. They're going to bring in some friends and new members because they're proud. They're proud of what they did, right?
No, absolutely. And I think that's really what I found in my lodge, doing events and putting on charitable things and whatever. You can always get a group of folks like-minded, whether it's an Elktoberfest or whether it's for putting together backpacks for charity or for the woman's shelter, that we do backpacks. We all try and get together and we get like-minded people to come in, and you find yourself on a great team and you start making friends that way. I've made some great friends doing stuff there, that you kind of all come together for a common cause. And at the end of the day, you're all eating well and having a couple of cocktails at the end of the day and having a great time. So yeah, it's work, and yeah, it's tough to do, but there's definitely icing on top of the cake that comes after it.
Oh yeah, no, and the work is time. Like we're not digging ditches here, right? We're just
yeah. Listen, there's no heavy lifting at the Elks Lodge. I have found that out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there are times, but not that. When you're an officer, I mean, it's taking some time to understand the statutes and Robert's Rules of Order and just the things that kind of organization teaches you that you can take into other parts of your world is priceless. I mean, you can't get that kind of training anywhere for free.
Right. Well, I'm lucky enough. I don't have to have 20 or 30 people under me as in a managerial position or something else like that. But I do know how that could become incredibly valuable for your day job too, if you had to run large projects together.
Right. So to say what are the benefits of being an officer, I mean, God, they're myriad. I mean, not only what it teaches you and what you can take out of there, but all the friendships and the people. I mean, it always comes down to the people. It's the only reason we do this, right? Have fun with each other and then do good things in the community because of that fun you had, right?
Well, now I'm going to ask the tough question.
Uh-oh.
Well, because that was all the friendships and funny stuff or whatever. But I need to ask the tough question because, it all isn't just fairy tales and rainbows, right? All right. What's a tough situation? And I'm going to ask it, what's a tough situation that you had to go through being in the chairs, but you still tried to remain positive? I mean, you still tried to do the best you could, but that kind of got under your skin a little bit. I want to hear, in a good conversation, a good interview, I want to hear the good, but I also want to hear the bad and how you overcame that.
Yeah. The bad. I think of three things, actually, there's three items that I remember today that I can say were bad and they taught me a lot. And I think by remembering them regularly, it keeps me on track. But, we had one, and I'm sure many officers gone through this, where an officer quits for some reason or has to leave, and you jump up a seat, you move too quick, you kind of lose that organizational stability. And next thing you know, it's elections again, and you've gone up, you might end up going up 3 seats. And I sat there saying, this isn't right. I don't think it's going to help the lodge. It's not going to help me. I'm not going to have the time I need to get good at this job. And I got nominated to move up, and I said, no, I'm going to stay in my seat. And I felt it was the right thing to do. I didn't know what anyone else was going to do. And thankfully, the person that was nominated for my seat did the same thing and said, you know what? Yeah, I should stay in the seat and and get that knowledge that we need. So when we do actually have the opportunity to be elected to the next position, we're prepared for it. So that was one bad thing. Wasn't that bad. The really tough things you deal with as an officer is things to do with the House Committee, suspensions, people that did something they shouldn't have, grown adults, and said something.
Well, I've always found when you've got that many people all at one place, not everybody is practically perfect in every way, right? You know what I mean? You've got a huge amount of people all in one place. There's going to be a couple, and now I have to admit, now we have a very small lodge. We've only got about 500 people, but there's 5 or 10 that can push your buttons on a daily basis, right? That are difficult, but overall, I'd probably say a good 98% of 99% are all really just great folks.
Oh yeah, and yeah, like you say, none of us is perfect. We all make mistakes, but the privilege of coming into those social quarters is, I mean, it's a privilege. It's personal to people. So when you've got to deal with that, it sucks. It's not fun. But
yeah.
I'm sure if you haven't yet dealt with that, you will. But as long as you tackle it head on, don't let it wait, don't let it fester, be open and honest with people, it moves on. And almost everyone that I had to deal with in those situations is still a member today, and we still talk. And I thank them for sticking with it and coming back and being a member. So,
well, one of the most gratifying things that I found this year, and it's the COVID year, that's difficult. But I have found even the people, other officers that I may not have a great rapport with, we have still all come together for the betterment of the lodge. And I don't want to call us even friendly at this point, but we still have all bonded together to do the best for the lodge and the best for the members. And I find that gratifying. I really do. Because even people with diametrically opposed points of view, even under duress, can still come together at some point and try and do the best that we can under the lockdown COVID-19 restrictions that we're under here. So it does have an amazing benefit of being able to come together.
Yeah, no, we're all here for the same reason. So no matter what, we're connected as members, and yeah.
Right. And so, of course, that throws me into the next one, which is that as an officer, of course, you get to attend state and national conventions. Have you extended those friendships out to I mean, is it fun going to the national? I've never been, to be honest with you, never been to a national. I was supposed to go this year. This is going to be my first year going to a national convention, and they canceled it. And I don't know if they're going to cancel it next year or whatever, but give me a sense, especially me, because I'm excited to hear about it. What's that like, and how do officers go, and how do they react with other officers?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hoot. Really, the shenanigans that happen there are outstanding. I mean, excuse me, the presentations and the knowledge you go away with is
Listen, if I'm going to do an interview, I want it real and honest and open. Guess what? If shenanigans are shenanigans, then we'll call it by what it is. It's a shenanigan. So I'm 100% okay with that.
The twice a year state conventions, I mean, I don't know that I could have functioned as well as I did as an officer without going to those. Not only because of the shenanigans and the friendships and the people, but the energy you come out of that after, all it takes is one officer that's really excited about something and they share it and gets you excited again, and you come back with new energy to your lodge and start all over. And having that happen every 6 months was priceless for my energy at the lodge. And then going
now, a question: did you go that for just your ER year or the leading night year, or did you do it through the lecturing and loyal night year too?
I did a loyal night on up, and I've continued going obviously since, because I immediately went from being an exalted ruler into a district deputy team. I was the assistant auditor for a couple of years, so
Gotcha.
I'm going to keep going and keep doing stuff. And I've been giving presentations each year at the state convention, because I'm also the state online presence coordinator, and a copay advertising coordinator, which I'm hopefully passing both those on, because I've been doing them for 3 years now. But um, it's a blast. My wife loves coming. She loves meeting all the people. She looks forward to going to convention. Our state does a spouses lunch, right? Which you think, oh, that's, old school, corny, get the spouses together and go shopping. And she said it's the best thing ever. They all go out and, have their mimosas and make fun of their husbands and
I
whatnot. So
love
she
it. As a
loves.
matter of fact, that sounds like my wife would just fit in quite well into that type of
But I mean,
situation.
a couple of them, I was like, I'm coming to your lunch, Jen. I mean, that looks great. So the conventions are great for both of us. You get the dinners, you get dressed up and go out to dinner, and it's I don't know, it's really a fun thing. And then of course afterwards, there's all the shenanigans that happen with 300 elks in a hotel together.
So my next question is that how do you dig the rituals? Because the rituals is a thing, and at least in my lodge, that seems to be the number one thing that is uncomfortable for recruits, new
Yeah.
folks that are looking at the officer corps, and they're looking at, hey, because our lodge forces you to memorize everything and you can't read. And so we're thinking about changing that, but we have had a lot of folks who I thought, I've only been an officer for now a couple of years, but I thought there's some really good people who might be interested, but immediately were there, oh, listen, I'm not memorizing all that stuff. That's way too much for me. I can't do it, whatever. Gave me every excuse in the book, right? So how do you guys do your rituals, and is this a more of a reading thing? Do you do full memorization? Kind of give me the idea of how your lodge works.
Yeah. Well, first I'm going to say personally, ritual. I didn't realize how much it meant to me until we had these COVID close downs, and we weren't doing the initiation ritual or whatever. And that one meeting we went back to and sat there and watched the initiation go down. I felt so good walking out of there. But how our lodge does it is we don't require you to memorize it, but you're certainly welcome to. But I do believe that if you simply require memorization to be an officer, you're going to miss a lot of good people. And if it's that important that your officers memorize it, well, bring in a choreographer or actor or something to help you do it. Every lodge has a few of those, I'm sure. We're not gonna memorize it. We need to read it impressively, and it needs to look impressive. Or the Jolly Corks toast, or some of the
Right.
other. Those for sure everyone quickly memorizes, but I mean, the leading night bit is that's a lot of words. That's a lot of words to memorize. It's my
Oh
favorite.
yeah, yeah. And that's kind of the killer for a lot of folks because our lodge requires full memorization. And I did my lecturing night pretty well. I've done my loyal pretty well, but I do know as you get into the leading into the ER, that's a lot of work. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a huge amount of work. And I've always felt that it is unfair to demand that of a new member. And I would love to be able to turn to them and say, no, we have another way, and there's and listen, well, if you guys haven't figured it out by now, I'm okay public speaking. I really don't have a problem doing public speaking. But I do know, like my wife, who I love her to death, but doing public speaking would probably scare the living hell out of her. But I think she's a great person, and I would hate for anybody not to be that great person who could really lead a lodge, but unfortunately not even want to even attend or even give it a shot or give it a try because of that problem. So I don't know if we're the only lodge in the nation who requires the memorization, but I hope you can kind of quell that and give them options. So the idea is that if you do really have a great person, but maybe they're not so great at public speaking, they still should entertain the idea of moving up those chairs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And no, you're not the only lodge. I'm sure most lodges probably require it. Ours does not. And what we came up with works really well and is impressively given. Because I mean, really, the initiation is your chance to give some meaning to all these new members, right? But I've got so many people, 2 past state presidents in our state that have told me a couple times that if it wasn't for being an officer, they wouldn't be good public speakers, that they hated to talk. They didn't know they had a voice. And by going through the chairs, and whether they read it or not, I didn't ask, but they're now, I can't shut them up. I mean, one of them, I know.
But that's fantastic. I've never really been a wallflower any time of my life, but I do know that there are some folks that just do not like to be in the public eye, but they're great people. But I think the idea is that if you can get them out and really get them to show themselves and really go out there with full head and full heart, I think that's fantastic. And if that helps and gets you a little bit more comfortable speaking in front of folks, it's can do nothing but impress not only yourself but everybody else around you.
Oh yeah, I mean, now you can be that person at the wedding who gets to stand up and give a toast that you always wanted to give because you were forced to do that as an officer. But yeah, definitely don't let the ritual keep you from being an officer, but it's important. I mean, the ritual brings us together and it bonds us as Elks. So it's important, but I wouldn't tell you not to do it because you have to memorize it. I mean, it's not hard to memorize it if it just takes time, but there's plenty of lodges you don't have to, and the officers can choose to come up with a way to do that.
So, okay, so we're coming down here to the final of this interview, and I have to say it's been a hell of a lot of fun. Because you're my buddy, Ben, and I'm just going to say it out loud. I just love chatting with you and having a great time with you. So I got to ask the final question. Why, if you're an Elks member, why would somebody want to become an officer or a committee chair or become part of the Elks Lodge? How do you encourage somebody, or what would you say to somebody who's kind of on the fence? Maybe they're not sure whether they want to do it or not, whatever. How would you tell them, hey, this is a great thing to do? What would be your pitch?
I'd say all the cool kids are doing it. I would tell them you're going to get more out of your membership by doing it, but really why you should become an officer. When I became an Elk, I met more people on the block I lived on in 6 months of being a member and getting involved than I had met in the 6 years prior, living on that block. And then once I became an officer, I'm out there mowing my lawn, right? I'm mowing the lawn out there by the sidewalk. This pickup truck stops, comes in and rolls his passenger window down. He's yelling across at me and I'm turning my mower off. He says, hey, aren't you Ben Braden? I'm like, why? What am I in trouble for? Yeah. Like, oh, I saw your picture in the newsletter. You're an officer at the lodge, aren't you? And I had that happen a couple times. That you just the connections, the connection to the community. That I felt more part of the community after being an officer. I really felt blessed to make these connections. And if I hadn't been an officer there, it never would have happened. And I'd never feel like I was part of something bigger than myself. I don't know. It was special.
No, that's perfect. And that's a perfect way to end this session. Anyway, thanks, Ben. And thank you very much for doing this interview with me. I'm hoping that these interviews can kind of work out and kind of tell folks that it's a great way to spend your time and giving back to your community.